boys are not around.
So.
Just figuring things out.
That's right.
Even though I was someone, I don't know, boys were gross. Even at middle school, it was like trial and error. I just had so much water.
What I can do is, right?
Yes.
I said that to some of my friends and like. I doing
Some more of this, right?
One of, loving Dr. Robinson. Somebody that anytime, not having having.
This is our credit DVD watching if you have a DVD player.
Is that what this is? Gary Gigiani. It's from a community member. Take a look, take a watch. I know it's a man or a woman.
And they even put all our names on it. Oh my goodness. You have one for sure?
You can have mine, because I do not own it.
I had one in my.
We have one in our meeting.
We're all gonna go hang out in my own.
I know, actually, not the car I'm driving, the other car, but I have one, I do have one around. Oh. Oh, wait.
Hello, Grace. How you doing?
Oh, pretty good. How are you?
Good.
Yeah. I was about to ask him, I forgot. Oh, serious, I'm gonna watch it.
Yeah, college.
So he sent a letter with it. He said the same one. Oh, wow. Okay.
But now I'm really curious, you know, when did this mean? Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Hi. I'll pass it on.
I don't know what they, that name is somehow, you get one too. Oh, wait.
May not try for that.
Oh, yeah.
Welcome tonight, and if we could stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So I have no announcements for tonight, but can I get a motion to adopt an agenda? Gus is first, Joe is second, all in favor? Passes.
So we have a study session tonight. Study session meetings are designed for the purpose of having administrative updates to the Board of Education. There are no public comments at study session meetings. Residents may attend the next scheduled business meeting on June 8th, 2021, and/or contact the board via email at boe@shenschools.org for any comments or questions. All questions coming to the Office of Public Information Officer are shared with the board and/or superintendent as appropriate. Policy questions, concerns are typically addressed by the board president. Operational concerns, questions are typically addressed by the superintendent and/or designee. With that, Dr. Robinson, your comments for tonight?
Do you want to introduce?
Oh, I didn't even see. I didn't look up. I'm so sorry. So welcome, Stacy.
Hi, thank you.
Welcome, congratulations. And yeah, first of many that you'll be attending, so
I'm
take it all in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. So thank you very much, Mr.
Yeah.
Stevenson. So at the behest, it's beyond a request, it's more like a behest of Mr. Presley, who sent me a note to say he was so absolutely amazed by the play and the showing at the Malta Drive-In, which I also attended along with Dr. Wood and a bunch of folks. And so Mr. Roselli, who's our Director of Fine Arts, finagled and found a way in, because once stuff is in, it becomes ownership rights and copyrights and all those kind of things get all crazy. So I'm going to have Mr. Roselli come forward and introduce this a little bit. I'm going to show the flavor of the play about introduction, but I don't want to take away his time. He claims that I do it to him all the time, so this won't be one of those times.
Wait, no such thing, Dr. Robinson.
So good evening, everyone. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. I'd like to start by saying we were not supposed to have a musical this year. We weren't supposed to have concerts. We weren't supposed to have much of a music or art program. COVID-19 and the pandemic certainly tried to make that happen for us. But what happens during the pandemic and during times of stress is that really smart and good people get creative and they get forceful in their ideas, sometimes to the point of even pushing me beyond my comfort zone. And the result is something phenomenal. So despite all the barriers we faced this year, you will see tons of performances posted online of our kids playing instruments, singing, so on and so forth. You will see art shows coming up. We participated in those around the capital region. We'll be doing a little small Shenendehowa showing in the near future. We have a jazz festival. I think we're on year 18 of that. And then last but certainly not least, Mr. Gregg came to me, who was our high school vocal teacher and musical director, came to me in September, late September, early October, and said, Frank, I have an idea. And so he elaborated a little bit, and through some brainstorming, we came up with something. And then he took it to a place that I couldn't even have imagined. So I guess I'll turn it over to the video and just remind you that we weren't supposed to have a musical this year. And despite that, you get this teaser. So enjoy. Thank you.
Okay. Actually worked a second ago. Okay, fine. Let's try this one more time. Okay.
Do you want me to give my speech again? Is that what it is?
I think let's pass on your speech and excuse me, I have to put on my technology hat here. So typically, it's a.
Oh, here we go. Got it. It only took you to.
Just kidding.
Yes, I have that kind of presence, you know.
Good evening. My name is Bradley Begg, and I've had the privilege of directing this one-of-a-kind production of Your Good Man, Charlie Brown.
Pretty Broadway theaters can reopen in September, but area students have no intention of waiting that long to raise their curtains.
Actually, at Shenendehowa, they're not raising the curtain at all, but they do have to wait for the sun to go down. You've seen this sort of thing pretty often during the pandemic. Students or other groups individually recording parts of the song, then putting it all together. Now, young performers around the country, like these at Shenendehowa, have taken it a step further, producing an entire musical this way, piece by painstaking piece.
I was like astonished. I was like, are we actually doing this?
Katie Lee is a junior at Shen and plays Sally in the completely virtual performance of You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown.
This definitely was a very new experience for me, and it made me really realize how much work goes into editing.
Okay, we can't have everything, huh? I'll just get ready to bring popcorn.
Totally.
My Zoom meeting.
Yep.
Yeah, well, that's hard. It's hard coding into our system.
When I say that,
We do. Okay.
Where do you play a performance like this during a pandemic? The Malta Drive-In, of course.
This also added a lot of pressure on everyone to make sure everything is perfect because the screen is big. I'm just so excited that everybody can be safe in their cars and they can watch what we put together.
Hi, my name is Noemi, and I am the co-director and president of the musical company. As president of the company, and especially as senior, my main goal this year was to give students a creative outlet and something to look forward to after school. I'm sure we can all agree that this year has been extremely difficult, unique, and chaotic, to say the least. And for me, it was very, very important to make this club a safe place, not only to come to just to have a good time, but also to create, amazing art like you're about to watch. The main goal of this club is really to get everyone together and, to show that even through a pandemic, it is possible to make beautiful things and create amazing art, and that, nothing can stop a creative mind. So we all hope you enjoy the show, and thank you so much for supporting the arts and for coming to watch us.
Hi, my name is Mae Ponitowski, and I'm a senior in the Musical Company Club. And I think that one thing that makes the Musical Company so special is that we all come from the 4 different grades in this humongous school district. None of us really know anything about each other. We don't know what friend groups this person is in outside of the club. We don't know what they're like outside of the club really at all, but all of us can come together with no judgment and we can create this amazing show together. And that's just been something really special that I've witnessed through all of these years. And the friends that I've made that I never really thought that I would connect with, it's just been something really, really special that I've been able to witness, not only on my end, but so many different other people's ends. And the connections that I've made with this club, I just met my best friends here. And it's just been something that I'm so thankful that I was able to have in high school. So I hope you all enjoy the show.
I think a year without a musical would leave a big gap in everyone's life. It's really important for students to have a creative outlet and to be able to express themselves with people that have similar interests. And the musical really provides that for a lot of people, including myself. I've been doing shows since I was 7 years old, and I'm a senior now. I really don't think there's ever been a year in my life that's gone by without being involved in a production or performing. So it's really important that we're still able to create that experience here, even though it is in a more unconventional setting.
Hello, Shenendehowa High School Musical Theater Group. I'm Crystal Joy Brown, and I play Eliza in Hamilton on Broadway. When Broadway is a thing. And as I am sure you're very aware, doing theater virtually is not the same, but I saw your incredible preview clip, and it's beautiful. You all sound amazing, you look amazing, and number one, you committed and you showed up, all of you. So thank you for continuing to burn the torch of theater. That is to remember to look around, how lucky you are to be alive right now. Look around, look around. No! I have to restart.
Where the buffalo roam. No, it's Ho. This is literally the name of the song.
You're a good man, Charlie Brown.
I should and do. Oh, I'm speaking with my hands too much.
I'm recording! Oh my God!
Then I Get on the bus.
Get on the bus! Don't want to be late for school, that's right!
Don't want to be late.
Don't want to be late for school!
Here we go again. Don't look at me. I'm not good. I'm not bad. I'm sort of in between. I memorized that phrase by heart. So tell me, I need to know it. When you the good things
Happiness is morning evening. There's not more happiness. That's
You should know, it's just fantastic.
Yeah, it was a great show.
Bob, you want to offer some comments?
I think you did a great job condensing it, for the amount of time, and, I think you did a great job. One of the students, was in the band, was in the ensemble, and in the tech group. And so what was different about, the typical musical, a lot of parents don't see, you might see the musical and you see what's on stage, but one of the traditions about the Shen musical program is that everything backstage, which is pure pandemonium, all nights, is run by a student producer. Okay, so other school districts might claim, they've got some talented students. Every school district has talented students on stage. But at Shen, what we do is we encourage the leadership, the community of the group to, work together, do all these things, and rise above as the challenges come forward. So that one student was doing all three. I think this was the year that definitely the tech crew part really brought out a bunch of students' ability to use the computer. Typically, a song would require a person, I've been told, about 30 hours to properly edit. So that's a lot of work to make that happen. And it's been a student, and with a lot of help from Mr. Gregg and the teachers, but delegating as much to the students as possible to get that to a problem. So it's hopefully a great experience that they can continue for the rest of their lives in other venues, and we look forward to seeing them.
Thanks, Bob.
You're welcome.
I'm glad Mr. Presley is not certified to be the academic administrator for fine arts because I have competition.
You're a good man, Mr. Roselle. Sure. So again, thank you very much, Mr. Rosella, for bringing that us, and kudos to all the students. This is how, as we often say, we will be doing something. We may do it differently, but we're going to do something. And I think that kind of speaks to just a couple of comments before I share some exit poll results. I want to say, first of all, thank you very much to the board, and congratulations also to the board on a very successful vote. The margin was pretty large margin, and it's been consistent with the last number of years, and we can never take that for granted. I think I've said it before at this table that the community trust in us is an asset. And it's an asset that we have to keep working to ensure that we maintain that positive relationship. And certainly this board has been an instrumental part of that. So I want to say on behalf of the entire Shen community, thank you, because every time we have votes, you still got to cross your fingers and hope that things turn out the way that it turned out. So the capital project, the bus referendum, the budget itself, moving forward. In the coming weeks, we'll be meeting with folks. In fact, I think we have a meeting this week, if I'm not mistaken, to start talking about some capital project things, to time one project into the next project, so we try to get those things going as fast as possible, because people think that a project passed today, that tomorrow we're going to start building. But the reality of it is it's 18, maybe 24 months differential between the design and the approval and all those kind of things. So we're trying to expedite those things as fast as we can. And also want to say congratulations to those board members who were successful. Mrs. Flom was acknowledged earlier for being here. Look forward to meeting with you and having you come on board. Mr. Gianni, who's continued his term, and Mr. Presley, who's also continuing on the board. And I want to say, Joe, thank you. We really haven't spent a lot of time together other than at board meetings, but I want to say your countenance, your demeanor is someone who hopefully we'll have enough time to actually get to know as a person, and I think that you brought a certain presence to this board that I think in the future will be something that will be beneficial to this community. So thank you for putting your name in the proverbial hat several months ago to say, hey, what about me? And also putting your name in the hat now to run for the board again. So thank you. I appreciate that very much, because we need people who are vested in children on the board and not people vested in themselves. So I really appreciate that very much. Just a couple of things, just wanted to for board purposes, this time of year is, we engage a lot of hiring. And let me qualify that. Dr. Wood and others engage a lot of hiring. So there's a running joke that my calendar, I use green for when it's occupied. And so you kind of look at your calendar, you're like, okay, so what does today look like? And then when you start seeing green, and you're like, oh, so when I'm going to actually get something to eat, when I'm going to actually use the bathroom, and then you realize that your days are just filled with one meeting after another meeting after another meeting. So we engage in a lot of hiring, teaching hiring, staff hiring, administrative hiring. We're getting close to the vacancy to Ken McDermott, who was here. He left to fill in Ken's position. Hopefully, by the close of this week, we would identify someone and make an announcement to bring to the board for the June meeting. We're going through the final phases, looking at the Changu principal position, and hopefully the same thing again, go through those phases and bring a recommendation to the board for the first meeting in June. So we're trying to wrap up all those things now. So as we transition into summer planning, those people be on board to hit the ground running from the beginning. We're speaking about summer planning. We're in the process of goals conversation at the end of June. We have our first two, what we call Summer Leadership Academy, with all administrators, supervisors, everyone together. And end of June, and we have another one in July, and then we come to the board in August with goals and essential objectives. So those things are happening, and I think it's important for you as a board to know that despite or in spite of the COVID situation, those major processes are always going to unfold and always going to unfold with a high degree of fidelity because we want to have a good plan going into the coming year. We're speaking good plan. We're in the process now of looking at a lot of things related to school reopening. It's truly like a moving target. Because every day a new announcement comes out in terms of, the good thing is the announcements are allowing for more flexibility versus less flexibility. So we're looking at those kind of things. Year-end ceremonies are happening. I'm sure the board is aware, the high school senior night was bumped because of some potential weather. They're trying to do something outside and they didn't want to get caught into a weather situation. And plus they have some folks coming in, some special guests, which we don't want to tell the kids. They're supposed to come in and they want people not being able to schedule. So the high school piece became a little tight as a result of some of those type things. So it's going to be on Thursday now. If you haven't heard, I'll make sure that you get that information as well. And graduation is one of those that we're looking at. And you know, everyone wants to know the details of the things. The only thing I tell people is that it's going to be a graduation that's indicative of the type of recognition that our students deserve. And so we start there, and anything else beyond that is bonus in terms of other involvement. So we're pretty excited as we wrap up the end of May, going into the month of June. A lot of things happen very quickly. So we're looking forward to that. And this last piece one, I want to spend a lot of details on it. So every year we do an exit poll, and this year is no different. And we try to do a one-page piece. Some past years we have broken the exit polls out in different slides, but sometimes it gets too unyielding. And a couple of years back, we started doing a one-page thing, just to give some point of comparison. We anticipated that this year the exit poll numbers were going to be a little bit lower because of the social distancing situation we had in the gymnasium, and some people just want to vote and leave and not necessarily stay around as much. So on average, we usually have about 18 to about almost 30%, depends on the year, people responding to exit poll. This year was a little bit lower, but kind of anticipated as such. But one of the things that when you get a chance to look at it, that these numbers are pretty comparable in terms of the factors that the community see as important. Having highly qualified staff has always been in the mid to high 90s. And I, just for this purposes, I have like 4 years because I kind of want to do a pre-COVID, after COVID to see if the numbers were a comparable piece of it. Rigorous and relevant curriculum, always high. Social emotional services. So those categories that you see there, those numbers are typically very similar. And it makes sense because that we have a very consistent focus on those things. So we hope that the things we're focusing on are the things that people appreciate, and vice versa, the things that we appreciate are the things that we're focusing on. And so that it works in sync in that sense of things. So I think it's important for the board to see these things. So sometimes, you know, depends who you talk to, what they want to prioritize, but we have to look at it from a system perspective and how we utilize resources. The overall impressions of folks that you know, people largely almost, you know, look at the numbers here, 58 and 35%, 58 excellent, 35% good combined together. You have over 90% of the folks who think that the quality of education that we are providing is a solid experience. And that's our business. That's the core of our business, right? So people, if we have low percentage on that, we're not doing a good job. So we look at that one very closely as we go through. And then this one is also important to the board. So up to 70% of the people think that when you combine the excellent and the good, that the Board of Education is also leading in the right direction. Almost 80% of the folks, so when you think about it, very high percentages, which again, recognizing that you live in a public space, and you know, it depends on who sends the last email, if they like what you said or not, how they're going to rate you on the next survey. Not necessarily the body of work. You always have to tell folks that, yeah, one incident or one issue is important. However, we have to look at the body of work all the time because it's multiple things happening as we move forward. Communication is a big piece of it. We take pride in a lot of different ways to communicate with the public. And we always ask the question about what people think about taxes. And most people think that the taxes here are reasonable, which, again, not a surprise for us when you think about it. We have out of probably, if we even go north, this Washington County, Montgomery County, go down to the Mid-Hudson region, we are the lowest per pupil cost. And it's something that, not because we're stingy, but because we take pride in trying to be cost effective. And yet we have one of the better school districts in terms of outcomes. So I think those two things shows the commitment of a lot of folks to provide a quality experience. And I think it reflected in terms of some of the tax implications and some of the decisions that the board supported even this year. To say, you know, I use some of it to stabilize the tax rate at the tax cap piece, and yet use some of it to address some of the uncertainties as we look to open school in September. So again, it's important I think for you as a board and for the community to always put things in context as we move forward, because this context is just immense in terms of how we look at things, and not to have any overreaction. Again, I tell people all the time, I don't discount anything, but I'm not going to over exaggerate anything as well. So we're not going to have these polarizing reactions to things, but everything's going to moderate, and we're going to find an objective place in the middle to move forward with things. And I think the data shows what the public feels and thinks about what we're doing as we move forward. So I'll stop there. If there are any comments, questions, and President, otherwise I'd be more than happy to.
The only comment I was going to make is talking about the participation or how many people do the exit poll. Historically, I think, and correct me if I'm
About
wrong,
18.
the higher percentage is typically when there's controversy. So I think the 12%, says not only does it have to do with the amount of voters, but also the fact that people feel that things are going really well.
And it is a great point, Todd. And we also use exit polls throughout the day to kind of gauge and see where the vote's going. So if the no's are outweighing the yeses, we got a problem. So we try to use it for that as well, because you're gonna get people, you're gonna get 200 people who general things the district needs to know, or the person who's like, I'm gonna tell the district all the awful things to think about. And luckily, it's a small handful of some of those folks. And so it's a good gauge as well.
Even with COVID, you had QR codes on the wall.
Yeah.
But maybe what would have got people to take more surveys is to have them going out, but maybe.
Yeah, they're all over it. I think it's just the nature of the beast. I mean, the overall count was relatively low in comparison to voting population. We're at about 2,600 roughly. I don't have the exact number. Roughly about 2,600, which is relatively low.
Over 2019.
2019 was a little over, 2019 was a low number. That's a funny thing, right? So 2019, 20, and then last year was the electronic vote.
Yeah.
So, but even put that in context, we sent out, I don't know, I think 28,000 roughly absentee ballots last year, and we had 7,000 people. So think about that. I mean, the budget for a vote last year was at least maybe 8, 9, 10 times the amount of the budget for a vote this year because of all absentee ballots. So when you think about it, we sent it right to people's houses. In some cases, people have multiple of them at their houses, and maybe a fourth of those that we sent out came back. When it was easy to vote, we had boxes all over the community for people to drop them in, those kind of things. And I think it's, I'm not one to complain. I think it's unfortunately indicative of how people exercise their right to cast a vote regardless of any elections. And so we still do vote shows. We still do all those things because we still have that obligation to, ignorance can't be an excuse, say that way. You can't say, I didn't do it because I didn't know, or I voted one way because I had misinformation. Ignorance can't be an excuse. And so we always watch that and try to figure out what's that sweet spot of how many people. Right now, the sweet spot seems to be around 2,500.
How many absentee ballots did you send out this year?
I think we sent out about 800, Kathy, absentee ballots, and we got 140 something back. So again, it's kind of perspective. And it's always a challenge. It's always a challenge. You do your part, you hope other people do their part, but it is what it is. But the percentages are very consistent, which I think is a good thing for us to gauge where we are. And so that was the main two presentations. Initially, I shared a note with the board. We're initially going to do some social motion. We're going to do that in the June meeting instead. So the rest of it just certification of the vote and some other action.
As Dr. Robinson said, we do have some action items to go over tonight. So A, certification of the vote, which is 21-22 budget proposition. 2, bus purchase proposition. 3, capital project referendum. And 4, board of education and 3 seats. Can I have a motion? Jason went first, I think it was Gus the second. Any comments or questions? And we move your hand.
Oh, no, I was
I was
like,
like, whoa.
I was motioning.
God.
No,
You
no,
didn't
no
come
comments.
up. All in favor? Motion passes. Okay, B, internal audit reports and corrective action plan facility use. Can I get a motion? Bob is first, Tom is second. Any comments or questions?
And so it looks like the, one is a modification of the date. So it was changed to a set date, February 2021. So when the, so one was for, you're just taking out the, because this was done back in December. And I just wanted to clarify, what was the date changed, or was the actual finding, or the, anything else changed?
So the corrective action plan date was listed as ongoing, which apparently is not acceptable. So we ended up having to list the date as February 2021.
And so so even if it's not, if we update it, then we'll just change that to, because I didn't think it was done. And so instead of saying ongoing, you just have to give it a date.
Right.
At the point you updated the report.
Right.
Okay, got it. Thank you. That was it. That was my only question.
Okay.
Thanks, Pat. Okay, all in favor? Motion passes. And then C, internal control report and corrective action plan risk assessment. Can I get a motion? Bob is first, Jason is second. Any comments or questions? All in favor? Motion passes. Okay, for the good of the order tonight.
We have an opportunity to recognize a board member, Grace. We received an award earlier for, it was a Smith College Award. And also it's a great opportunity to thank the high school administration for taking the time to put these together during COVID. I think this is a great tradition for our students. Parents really like the opportunity at the end of the year to recognize their students and see their students recognized. So we could have taken an easy way out in the high school and say, hey, it's too hard. Those are the three words I have not heard at all this year. They just don't say it. They figure out a way to make it as meaningful as possible in all of our schools. So thank you very much, and thanks to Grace for being here.
Any other comments tonight? There is one thing that I do want to talk about real quick, and it's a really great news. Beth Miles, as you know, has led the Bountiful Backpack. I mean, with everybody, with all the other schools, and our administrative team, Becky Carmen works very closely with her. And every year she does works on a grant with Dunkin' Donuts to be able to subsidize. And through COVID, there were some changes in the grant process this year. And she had approached Shenendehowa Education Foundation to work with us in order to put the grant forward, because we actually ended up in competition with the food bank this year. So Beth wanted to still go out and try to get the grant, and she was successful. And using the foundation to be the house of that. So really great, $10,000 back for the backpack. It will be dispersed through the foundation. So we're very happy about that. Kathy Whitmore Chase, thanks so much for helping us out as well. But another great move for this terrific program that helps so many throughout the year. And it's been a real asset throughout the COVID. So I just want to bring everybody up to speed on that. Okay. So with that, can I get a motion to adjourn? Stacy, your first one, and it's a really short one. Don't get used to that. Gus is first, Bob is second. All in favor? Okay. Meeting is adjourned. I'm going to my daughter's.